Crushes! Who doesn't have them? Boy crush, girl crush, celebrity crush, YouTube crush. The list goes on. So I was gonna make a video about my cats, but nah, that'll be for later. Let's talk about how I was a creep when it came to my middle school crush. Okay, real talk. Before I throw my past self into the fire and sadistically watch the embers come off of that trash heap, there is a healthy way and an unhealthy way to deal with having a crush on someone or something. Middle school me is a perfect example of an unhealthy way I dealt with a crush. And in all honesty, I shouldn't berate myself or feel ashamed today for what I did back then. I have learned from that past experience, and I grew from who I used to be. Self-improvement is a good thing. But I don't think you should be too hard on your younger self, as we're bound to make all kinds of mistakes and errors that essentially help define who we are today. Anyway, well, let's go back, shall we? Middle school. The stage in my life where, honestly, I don't remember much about. Middle school happened to be the pivotal point in my life where my depression so rudely announced itself and wormed its way inside my poor pubescent brain. What I do remember isn't pleasant, and my experience with how I handled my middle school crush is one of them. The boy I crushed on was academically smart, cute-looking, very kind and well-mannered, and I knew him from elementary school. He was rather short compared to me, which only added to his level of cuteness, and for the purposes of this video, I'ma call him Ted. You're gonna know why later. Anyway, I think it's because I got to know him in elementary school first that's where the initial root of my feelings began, which steadily grew after 5th grade. However, it wasn't until 8th grade that crushing on him began to take a genuinely sour turn, which also happened to be around the time my depression decided to go into full swing. Ugh. I used Ted as a means to cope with my illness. He was a light in my struggling dark times. But as time went on, I started to dehumanize him. He no longer became a person, but a possession. Something you vied for, but failed to empathize with, failed to see as human, and thus, by doing so, you overstep your boundaries, and I certainly did. Well, here's some dirt from my past. Since my friend knew he made me happy during my allegedly darker times of school, she learned his entire schedule for me. I did know where he lived, but this information I knew beforehand via from elementary school, back before I turned creepy, although it did fuel my creepiness later on. Then lastly, invading personal space. Specifically the last day of school, which I'll get to. Oh, and we also rode the same bus home. Thankfully, even past me had some boundaries. I never waited for him after classes, and honestly I couldn't because he was on the opposite side of the building than me. I think that's a blessing in disguise. I think the only class I shared with him was orchestra, where he played, I want to say the bass. I'm torn between the bass or the cello. I can't remember which. But I played the viola, and I still have my viola today. Sometimes I'll take it out and play it a little bit. Oh man, I'm so rusty though, it's ridiculous. Anyway, his bus stop was a block over than mine, and I never specifically went to his stop just to see him. And I think that's mainly due to the fact that I got anxiety over breaking my usual routine back before I even realized that I even had anxiety, but back before I realized what it even was. I didn't creepily linger around his house, thank God, but I did walk by it when my bestie and I went to the park. So I think that sort of was how I was back then. My crush was like this little secret. Someone I fawned over from a distance, and maybe it's because it was from a distance, younger me rationalized it was okay. Nevertheless, what I did back then totally gives present me stalker vibes, but at the same time, younger me didn't fully understand what I was doing. Hell, I was about, 12? 13, maybe? Yeah. My bestie was certainly my wing lady in this whole thing, and usually she helped me get his attention or be able to talk to him. And I wanted Ted's attention so much that when I did get it, I'd milk it for what it was worth, but mostly never had the drive to initiate, butt in, or keep him there talking to me. Rare instances, I would gain enough courage to approach him and talk, but in one particular moment, I certainly took it way too far. This, my peeps, was when I invaded that personal space I was just previously mentioning. So, it was the last day of school, we were exiting from some assembly, and among the hype and the crowd, he was walking in front a few paces ahead of me with his pals. I don't know what demon possessed me, but suddenly I had the bright idea of, "Hey!" I turned to my bestie. "There he is! There's Ted! I'm tempted to pick him up. Should I do it?" "Yeah, do it!" So guess what I did? I called out to Ted, caught up with him from behind, and whispered, "You're my little teddy bear!" and picked him up from behind with a hug right in front of all of his friends. It kind of did cause a little bit of scene in that crowded hallway. The moment only lasted seconds. And once I set him down, he immediately put distance between us and rushed off. His friends following after, laughing about the whole debacle, mind you. And, looking back, yeah, that was uncalled for. When I think back on that moment, I put myself into how he must have felt, and it really does make me feel so gross. I can only imagine how this poor boy felt coming to school purely because they're motivated to get good grades and have good attendance. But what if there was a possibility that because of what I did and how I was and how I couldn't get a handle on my feelings, that maybe on the inside, Ted, maybe he was uncomfortable coming to school because of me. I mean, luckily after that act, a light bulb basically dinged. It pinged inside and I was like, oh, hold up. Because when I think about it, I faintly remember him looking back. No, he wasn't looking back. He was checking. He was checking to see if I was still pursuing him in any way. And luckily I wasn't, because I decided to hang back with my bestie, but the look he gave me when we locked eyes for that moment, yeah, I remember it making me feel awful. And y'all probably can guess why. So that guilt actually rooted itself in me so intensely, I never again had a in real life person crush for years. We're talking all the way through high school and college, and then some after college. I mean, during that time, I only crushed on people in like anime, fantasy people who weren't real. And I honestly think it's because of what I did when I was in middle school. I was subconsciously punishing myself for what I did, for how uncomfortable I made him feel. And I didn't realize that I was subconsciously punishing myself to such a degree, because later, down the road, I started feeling like, oh my god, am I a broken person? Am I a broken individual? Can I not be attracted to people who exist in the real world? Am I so caught up in this fantasy world that I can't come out of it? It was scary. I just didn't feel crushes on living people anymore, because deep down, I was so scared that what I did could happen again. I didn't want another Ted to happen again. So, however, I mean, as bad as it was and as terrible as I felt, and like all of the epiphany moments like going through as you're, aging up and maturing and everything, and oh man, self-discovery, it's just, as terrible as it was, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have learned the importance of boundaries and communication, as well as admitting, you were in the wrong, and taking a step back and realizing it's okay to say you were in the wrong. It's okay to make mistakes. It's even better if we learn from them. I didn't have another crush until late 2017, which started as MCU's Loki, then mid-2018 grew into the celebrity crush of Tom Hiddleston. Since then, my celebrity crush has died down a lot, but if it wasn't for Tom, I wouldn't have allowed myself to crush on other people, and see that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It becomes bad when you take it too far. So, for any of you out there who are or might be crushing on me, which I kind of doubt, but parasocial relationships are quite the interesting thing. So, I ask this of you: don't be past me. Or anyone in general, don't be past me. Sometimes the best thing you can do is realizing your crush is just as human as you. So try talking to them, I dare say. You'll find that's most likely the easiest way. And I'ma just leave y'all with that. Thank you for watching. Give it a like, comment, subscribe so you never stay out of the loop with this girl's content. And remember, everybody, be awesome. Be you. Kemi, out.